The wind blew Kate's bonnet clean off as twigs reached for her. The frozen mud splashed onto the underbelly of her horse and the hem of her dress. As Kate flew by familiar rocks and trees, she immediately recognized them from similar rides she had taken as a young girl. Of course, Kate had taken those rides with Uncle Cato, the most trusted of her family's 12 slaves. Sometimes they would even ride down the paths in the darkness of night to warn the neighboring families of the raiding Cherokee so they could seek shelter at Fort Prince or Fort Nicholas. How she wished Cato was with her now. As the eldest of 10 children, Kate had always known her parents relied on her not only to help with the chores and child rearing, but most of all, they needed her to be strong. That being said, Kate never minded hard work. In fact, she loved gardening and watching the fruit and vegetables that she planted emerge from the red clay ground. That is what influenced her to plant a grove of walnut trees on their plantation. In addition, as a young teenager, Kate found the backcountry of South Carolina, which surrounded the plantation, her own personal paradise, where she could hone her equestrian skills. As she navigated through the dense trees now, she was thankful for her experience on these roads. Kate recalled how she once overheard her father bragging to the men at church, "My Katie girl be the most accomplished horse rider I have ever seen." In fact, besides riding horses and working on the plantation with her family, the only other thing Kate ever had time for was church. Of course, Kate didn't mind church. She had a reverence and love for the Lord, as most people in this wilderness did. "May the Lord give us strength during these uncertain times," Kate murmured between clenched teeth. Kate thought back to when she was only 11, boarding the creaky ship to America. It had been a long journey from Ireland, and it had taken a year before King George III awarded her parents their 1763 land grant. Like that journey, this journey was also worth it for freedom. Freedom! The word barely escaped Kate's mouth as a cloud of vapor emerged. The thought encouraged Kate to check her grip on the reins and give her mount a healthy nudge with her heels. She thought about her brother Thomas and her sweet husband Andrew, who, like her, were willing to die for freedom. Kate then thought back to 1767, when she was just a young woman of 15, vowing to love and cherish Andrew until death. While Andrew was older than her, they both shared the same values and love for God and their country. It had taken Kate and Andrew 5 years to have their first child. In Kate's mind, she could still see Andrew holding their healthy son, John. Unexpectedly, Kate felt a tear cross her face, regardless of the loss of their second child being many years ago in 1773. The loss had left a hole in Kate's heart that never went away and seemed to cause tears at the most inopportune times. After a few tears passed, Kate smirked to herself as she reassured herself that she could find her way even if blinded by tears. It was during this time that Kate began to realize that the motion of the horse, along with the thoughts of her children, had made her very uncomfortable, and she wished that she had breastfed their baby Kate more before she left. While cold and uncomfortable, Kate couldn't help but continue to grin as she recalled baby Kate's birth and how Andrew had said, "I guess I'll have to call you Peggy now that baby Kate is here." This thought warmed Kate from within, and she almost laughed out loud as she thought about her rambunctious 1-year-old. She thought back to the prior day. After seeing the enemy cross her father's creek, she had to gently tie the sleeping toddler's wrist to the bedpost, just to ensure if she woke up she didn't wander off while the rest of the family were busy. After that, Kate mounted her horse and rode off to warn Andrew, General Morgan, and the neighbors about Cornwallis and his army. The war had been hard on Kate and her family. She was 23 when the war broke out, but as she thought back to that time now, it seemed like another lifetime ago. As she struggled on in the coldest January she could remember, Kate also thought back to the conversations she had overheard at church, in town, and while visiting others. Information that usually came from a loyalist who thought women were not capable or valuable in war. Kate smiled again as she reminded herself that she and other scout women were in fact proving the naive wrong. After jumping several fallen trees, Kate went serious again as she thought about being a scout. As the war had lingered on, people had begun to turn on each other more and more, and both sides had done unforgivable things to each other. But no one was more feared than the bloody scout Bill Cunningham. The thought of his name made Kate shudder more than the cold air. She said a quick prayer and asked that she never make his acquaintance. Kate reminded herself of the last time she came face to face with ruffian loyalists. She had been home alone with the children as Andrew was gone to serve as a captain in the militia under Major Henry White and Colonel John Thomas, Jr. Kate had been busy with her chores when Mattie, one of the family slaves, rushed in to alert her of approaching guests. At this, Kate gathered her children and warned them to say nothing. Kate then strolled onto the porch to meet her uninvited guest. "Hello, Miss Barry," a familiar voice called out. It was Mr. Chesney. Kate recognized him from a dinner party that she had attended prior to the war at their plantation. Kate remembered how her chest tightened when she noticed the pine twigs shoved into the men's hat bands. The thought made her aware of her own stinging chest as she inhaled the icy air. "Where is your husband, Miss Barry?" Chesney asked. Kate could still remember his voice. At refusing to answer, Chesney tipped his tricorn hat while one of the unknown men grabbed her, dragging her to the nearest tree. She refused to look at the man or her children, who were by that time screaming in fear. She couldn't look, she reminded herself. She had to stay strong. The man then bound her to the tree by tying her hands before again asking her, "Ma'am, where is your husband?" Kate recalled feeling the rough bark against her face as she gritted her teeth in rebellion. "If you wish to participate as a rebel, you will be treated as one," the deep, unwavering voice continued. What came next was an eerie silence before the crack of a whip, and a pain of which Kate had never experienced before. Kate recalled how the pain made her hold her breath. Then another stinging sensation, followed by another. After the third lashing, Kate remembered how her knees buckled, and the only thing holding her up was the tree. "We will find your husband without you, then," the man said as he and his company walked away. Kate recalled the stinging throb that she felt, and how the wind blew the loose fabric on her back and the warm sensation of blood trickling down. Kate then shook her head and readjusted her focus. She thought back to a similar mission. Of course, during that ride, it had been August. She had done her best for Morgan then, as he sent her out to assemble men for the battle at Camden. A battle which had resulted in the death of almost every man that she had talked to. The face of Kate's sweet husband again came to her mind. "I have to encourage more men to fight. God help me," she cried out. When Kate finally arrived at the Patriot camp, she could hardly unmount. Her numb feet tingled with every step. After her visit, she rode to another Patriot camp and to Whig homes, begging every able-bodied man to head to a place known as the Cowpens to make a stand. The next day, January 17th, 1781, the British attacked, but were defeated. During the Battle of Cowpens, some stories even placed Kate on the field assisting her husband, who was fighting under General Andrew Pickens. Later on, after the battle, Bloody Bill Cunningham killed Kate's sister's fiancé, Captain Stedman, while he was laying feverishly ill in bed. Kate was given the title Heroine of the Cowpens, and later received medals for her work as a messenger and spy. Kate died in September of 1823 and was buried next to her husband in a family cemetery at Walnut Grove Plantation in South Carolina. I hope that you enjoyed learning about Kate, better known as Margaret Catherine Moore Barry. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, and as always, thanks for watching.